Alright, and hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production channel here at YouTube, and welcome to the final end of the year list of 2020. And today it is the top 15 heavy metal albums of 2020. So without further ado, let's get in to the top 15. Alright, so coming in at number 15 is the Helm of Awe from Thrust. This, of course, was their follow-up to Harvest of Souls from 2018. Again, I've done a review on this album. I don't need to at least go into more depth about it. I thought this was a very good album from these guys. Again, one of the newer materials since reforming definitely some years ago. Just a good album. Definitely just some solid modern day heavy metal. Definitely done by one of the unsung heroes of the movement, at least of the that American metal movement in the mid 80s. As again, their debut being Fists Held High, which was released on Metal Blade Records. So that was a good album. 1984, just again, Thrust are just a great band. So Helm of Awe, I thought, was a very solid album. So let's definitely move on to number 14, which is Celebration Decay from Vicious Rumors. This was, of course, a follow-up to 2016's Concussion Protocol. This is the first album with Nick Courtney on vocals, and again, solid, just as I would say, again, just as good as Concussion Protocol, but this again, maybe a little better in some places. But again, I liked Celebration Decay. I don't need to talk too much about it. Again, I've done a review on it, so I don't need to, at least drag a lot of this video out just to talk about one freaking album. Most of these, it will be the same thing. So let's definitely move on. Again, it's a good album. So that's here at number 14. Coming in number 13 is Legal at Last from Anvil. And surprisingly, this was, of course, this was the follow-up to 2018's Pounding the Pavement. And normally you would expect this to be a lot more higher, because Pounding the Pavement was a lot higher on my last, on my end of the year list for 2018, but this one is definitely below. One of the reasons is, while I do like this album, don't get me wrong, I do like this, but compared to Pounding the Pavement, this is one of those apparently one of the few Anvil albums I really haven't been able to really have that itch to want to go back to. I had to re-listen to it at least prior to at least this end of the year list, and it definitely, I was originally had this on my speed metal list, but then I took it out and I decided to put it on here because of, again, it's kind of weird how I'm feeling towards this album. There's some great riffs on here, but at the same time, I feel like there's a little bit of monotonous feel to this album. I feel like there's not a whole lot of variety compared to Pounding the Pavement. I thought Pounding the Pavement was a lot more of a catchier, more hookier album compared to this one. This one definitely has some cool thrashy riffs, and of course, what they've done, what Anvil has done, especially with Lips, is they definitely seem to have replaced the sort of sexual innuendo stuff of that they had in the past, and replaced it with a lot more political talk. And I feel like on this one, it also kind of drags a little bit of it down. So there's definitely here and there. There's some. I feel like there's some little bit of nitpicking here, but for the most part, this is not a bad album. But I don't think this is far from Anvil's strongest album. But I felt that way the first time I heard it, and in my review, I felt some of that. Even though, again, at times I could care less about the lyrics from Lips, but at the same time on this one, you almost can kind of, it becomes a little bit irritating. But again, that's just Lips being honest. And again, Anvil at this point is like one of those bands where everybody either loves to hate. I always liked Anvil, but this one, I feel like this might be the less strongest album from Anvil. Again, I actually like Pounding the Pavement. So again, I don't want to talk too much about this one. I want to drag on. But so that's here at number 13, Legal at Last from Anvil. Coming in number 12 is Poltergeist from Mindless Center. This, of course, was their follow-up to 2015's The New Messiah. Again, since reforming, these guys were a cult 80s band back in the 80s. Again, Swedish heavy metal. Albums like Turn On the Power. Just some great stuff. Just a great band overall. But Poltergeist, I thought, was a very good album from Mindless Center. So again, I've done a review on this one. I don't need to really talk too much about this one, but I thought it was a solid album. So that's here at number 12. Coming in at number 11 is Entangled in Sin from Hex, the follow-up to 2017's Wrath of the Reaper. And again, this is another good album from Hex. Maybe I would say it's as good as Wrath of the Reaper, but still solid. I mean, both these two albums go hand in hand. Again, it's like a 1-2 punch. They just go hand in hand. You can't really separate these two albums. So again, it's all good. So that's our number 11, Entangled in Sin from Hex. Finally, we're getting into the top 10 portion of the top 15 heavy metal albums of 2020. So here, coming at number 10, is Heads Have Got to Rock and Roll from Magic Touch. This was a band I was very new to earlier this year, but I definitely was taken back by the artwork, and I thought it looked cool, and what I heard from the snippet, I really liked what I heard, so that's why I decided to listen to the whole entire album to at least to do a review. And what I got was a surprising album. This was originally, it's going to be on my top 10 rock releases of 2020, but then I decided to take it out and I moved it into this list, because again, there's still some metal on this album. I mean, it does have its hard rock touches to it, but for the most part, it's a metal album through and through. So it's just good. So some again, you really can hear the influences from bands like either Aerosmith and Thin Lizzy and Judas Priest and Black Sabbath or Pentagram, and just you can really hear the influences from those kind of bands in this sound. Even Dio, just all good. So it's a great album. So that's our number 10. Heads Have Got to Rock and Roll from Magic Touch. Coming here at number 9 is The Fire Never Dies from Silent Storm. Yes, my buddy's friend Jim Harris, he's finally on this list. Again, this is the debut album for Silent Storm, and follow-up to the self-titled EP from 2018. This is a good album from Silent Storm. I think he definitely knocked it this time. He really definitely made a solid album. Just great. I love this album. I don't need to talk too much. I've done a review on here, but again, it made it onto here, so that at least should be set. That should say plenty there. That should say something. All right, so let's definitely move on. So that's there at number 9. So coming at number 8, this is one of the albums that's definitely moving in, or at least that moved from the new wave or traditional heavy metal list that has also made it to here. This is Ravening Iron from Eternal Champion. Yeah, again, this was on my new wave or traditional heavy metal list of this year. Yeah, the top 10, and this is a good album. I really like this one. Again, you are going to be noticing a few albums overlapping from the new wave or traditional heavy metal list, but that is going to be on this list here. But again, it's all part of the top 10 portion here. But Ravening Iron, great album. I've talked about that on that list, and I've already done a review. You don't need to hear me talk more about this album. This was a solid album from these guys, and it definitely made me want to for sure, at least follow these guys more. So, just a good album. So that's here at number 8, Ravening Iron from Eternal Champion. Coming in at number 7 is Full Metal Jacket from Shock Paris, the long-awaited comeback album from this cult US metal band. Just a good album. Definitely Vic Hicks and crew, they just sound great. Definitely, I would say some of the best materials maybe since Steel and Starlight. Just great stuff all around. So that's here at number 7, Full Metal Jacket from Shock Paris. And coming in number 6, again overlapping from the top 10 new wave traditional heavy metal list, it's And the Earth Stood Still from Steel Inferno. And again, just solid stuff, just great female-fronted heavy metal. I love this album. Again, Karen and Amy Lee Carlson are some of the best female singers so far I've heard in the 2010s. Just great stuff. And so that's here at number 6. And the Earth Stood Still. So, finally we're getting into the top 5 portion of the top 15 list, or top 15 heavy metal albums of 2020. So coming in at number 5 is Reignited from Torch. Again, speaking of some other comeback albums, this is a good album. These guys, again, are another Swedish band alongside with Mindless Center. But this is one of those bands that are definitely dear to my heart. One of the few early Swedish metal bands I really got into alongside Heavy Load. Again, just great stuff. Dan Dark, it just sounds fantastic on this album. Every bit of the original guys here, they just sound great. This is definitely some of the best material for me since the debut self-titled album from 1983. This is definitely could have been their what could have been their major label debut back in the 1980s. Just good, solid heavy metal. Again, just very meat and potatoes stuff, but it's great. I like it. So that's our number 5, Reignited from Torch. Coming in number 4 is Path to Destruction from Warning Sign. This is another great band. I've been definitely been really interested in these guys for a while. Again, they are Canadian. This is their second album, and this is just good heavy metal. I almost had this in my top 10 thrash metal albums of 2020, but the thing is, when going back and listening to this album, they get listed as like a heavy thrash metal band, but the thing is, they really are not. I think on this album they show a little less of thrash and just straight up just no BS heavy metal, again in the vein of like Judas Priest, like modern day Judas Priest, and that's what's it. It's just great stuff, so I don't need to talk too much, just good solid heavy metal. So that's here at number 4, Path to Destruction from Warning Sign. So coming at number 3, again overlapping from the new wave or traditional heavy metal end of the year list that came out on Monday, but it's Termination Shock from Traveler, their second full-length album. I've already talked about this album quite a bit. This was a good album though from Traveler, just solid, great heavy metal. Again, great vocals, just great stuff. Again, some of that Iron Maiden influence, some of that US power metal influence, just all good. It just sounds solid. It just sounds at least very mature sounding in some places. You can tell they definitely hone in a lot of their musicianship. They're just great players. So that's our number 3, Termination Shock from Traveler. So coming at number 2, again, the last of some of the more comeback albums from this year, that's The Passing of Time from Glacier. Again, this is their long-awaited debut album. Again, their very first release was all the way back in 1985, and it was their self-titled EP. I've already talked about this album already on this channel. Again, I did a review on this one. This is a good heavy metal album. This is easily just as good as in the material on the 1985 EP. This is just good stuff all around. There's just nothing bad on here. Yeah, even the original singer, he just sounds fucking great on there. Just great stuff all around. So I don't need to talk too much, but that's here at number 2. But what is number 1? Well, let's definitely find out. So if The Passing of Time from Glacier wasn't my number 1, then what is my number 1 heavy metal album of 2020? I know, it seems almost spamming because this was my number 1 new wave or traditional heavy metal album of 2020, but the writing was on the wall, and how many times I've listened to this album, it is also my number 1 heavy metal album of 2020. This was almost, when it came to Ambush and their debut full-length album Firestorm, that album definitely was a big surprise and definitely showed me that there was definitely more to the new wave or traditional heavy metal movement, and there were definitely bands that definitely showed that they definitely can for one, write, perform, sing, and be great musicians and still write good solid heavy metal. And Firestorm was almost going to be my number 1 album for 2014 until I heard, at least at that time, Unleash the Fire from Riot, or at least Riot V, and that definitely took Ambush's spot. But nowadays, I feel like I made a mistake, and I should have at least gave it to Firestorm. But many years later, almost after 2014, Infidel, I had to. I obviously made it like, alright, this is gonna be the album that I am making my #1 album of 2020. At least my #1 metal album, my #1, just all around. I just feel every bit of this album is, to me, is what I look for in heavy metal to begin with. This is every bit of what I look for in an album when it comes to riffs, hooks, just great musicianship, vocals, and just all around. That's what I look for, and they brought it. So that's, of course, is why this is my #1 heavy metal album of 2020. So there you go. There is my top 15 heavy metal albums of 2020, and this is the final end of the year list for 2020. Just a lot of great albums that was released this year. There was a whole lot. I know a lot of you know that there was a lot of great albums. Again, you can always list your picks. What was your top 10 or your top 15 or your top 25 or even 30 albums of 2020? Definitely leave them in the comment section below. But if you have any thoughts on any of the albums I talked about on this video, or at least in this video is a better way to put it, again, leave them in the comment section below. But if there's any albums here that you haven't even listened to, and since again I show my enthusiasm for a lot of these albums and a lot of these releases, you should know which ones to at least to inspire you to go out and check out. You should know which ones. So with that, I hope all of you enjoyed. I hope all of you enjoyed a great Christmas. I hope all of you will end up enjoying a great New Year's. So with this could very well be the final NastyMetalProductions video of 2020. Let's move on. 2021, everybody. Let's make 2021 our year. Take care, everyone.